Check, check, check. Test 1, 2. Check, check. Testing 1, 2. Check. You're probably going to get a lot of background noise because those mics on stage are hot. I can turn you down if you need less. It's just they need a lot. Check 1, 2. Test, test, test. Check, check.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your 5-minute warning. 5-minute warning. Before the debate, please find your seats. Debate will begin in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, brighter. What about the color? That looks white? Okay. How's this? Okay. So I'm at 3,200. So I can bring it to 4. That's what Dave's is set at. On the Sony, yeah, I mean, yes, it is. It's the same as the X1.
1 minute warning, 1 minute warning.
And is it at the podium or where is it? Okay. Okay.
I'm going to look at you. Good morning, Loudoun. I am Tracy Baynard, Senior Vice President of Infrastructure and Economic Development at McGuire Woods Consulting, and your first moderator today. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Loudoun Chamber's Policymakers event, the Virginia 10th Congressional District Debate, featuring State Senator Suha Subramanian and Republican candidate Mike Clancy. I'd like to begin by thanking both of our candidates for joining the Chamber today for this morning's event. More importantly, I really want to thank them both for their willingness to represent our community in the U.S. House of Representatives. Having responsible leaders in Congress that are willing to work collaboratively to prioritize the needs of America's businesses and workforce is essential if we as a nation are to meet our shared challenges. With today's discussion is the Chamber's aim to provide our members and our community greater perspective on which candidate represents their vision for America's future. The topics addressed this morning's debate will be based entirely on the issues addressed in the Loudoun Chamber's legislative agenda. This agenda has been developed by local business and community leaders, from those who serve on the Chamber's Public Policy Committee and on our Board of Directors. That means the questions to our candidates will be asked to address will focus exclusively on business and quality of life issues. Our intention is to provide our audience, both here at the National Conference Center and those viewing via the online live stream, a better appreciation for where these candidates stand on the issues that are most important to your business and to the economy. We then hope you will use that knowledge and to make your decision by Election Day, November 5th. One quick housekeeping note before we start. Please feel free to share your thoughts on today's program with your many social media followers. When you do, please use our hashtag LCCCC, all the C's, debate. Please also tag @Loudoun Chamber. Now I want to recognize our great sponsors. We would not be able to do our 2024 Policymaker Series without their support. I want to thank these outstanding businesses. First, our 2024 Policymaker Series signature sponsor, Inova Loudoun Hospital. In a few minutes, we will hear from my cohort partner in crime, Dory O'Brien, Director of Government and Community Relations at Inova Loudoun Hospital. For now, please join me in thanking Inova Loudoun Hospital. Next, I'd like to recognize our spotlight sponsor for today's event, Novec, for their generous support. Later in the program, we look forward to hearing from Nicole Carter, Vice President of Customer Engagement for Novec. But right now, let's give Novec a round of applause. The entire 2024 Policymaker Series would not be possible without an ongoing list of sponsors, and let me go through them now. Our advocate sponsors for the year are Backflow Technology, Bowman Consulting, Equinix Data Centers, CyrusOne, Google, McGuire Woods Consulting and McGuire Woods LLP, National Sports Medicine Institute, Toth Financial Advisory Corporation, and Washington Gas. Please thank these sponsors. I also want to recognize our 2024 enterprise sponsors for their unwavering support. They are Amazon Web Services, BCT, the Communities Bank, Community Foundation of Loudoun and Northern Fauquier Counties, Cooley LLP, Dominion Energy, Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, Morven Park Center for Civic Impact, Microsoft, NextEra Energy, Northern Virginia Community College, Shenandoah University School of Business, Walsh, Colucci, Lulai, and Walsh. You've Got Maids of Northern Virginia, and Terracon Consultants and Merit Properties. Let's please thank these sponsors. I'd also like to recognize the Chamber's 2024 business partner, the Economic Development Authority of Loudoun County, and our 2024 community partner, the Loudoun County Department of Economic Development. Let's give them a hand. We also want to recognize our debate sponsor for today, the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors, for their generous support. Later in the program, we will hear some remarks from their CEO, Ryan McLaughlin. Woo-hoo! The Loudoun Chamber made a commitment to ensure this debate was made widely available to all who call Virginia's 10th Congressional District their home, and to the media and other interested parties. Thanks to the generosity of our video sponsor, Google, today's debate is being live streamed on the Chamber's YouTube channel. Let's thank Google for their generous support. I'd also like to thank the many elected and public officials who are here to join us for this important event. I'm going to read that list, and if you could please hold your applause until I name everybody, that would be great. Please welcome from the Virginia State Senate, Senator Russet Perry. From the Virginia House of Delegates, Delegate Gary Higgins, Delegate Kenan Srinivasan, and Delegate Atusa Reeser. Please welcome the Chair of the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors, Chair Phyllis Randall. Please welcome Sterling District Representative on the board, Supervisor Karan Sains. From the Algonquin District on the Loudoun County School Board, April Chandler. From the Catoctin District Representative on the Loudoun School Board, Carrie LaBelle. From our Treasurer, Henry Eichelberg. The Commissioner of Revenue, Bob Wirtz. Our Clerk of the Court, Gary Clemens. Our Sheriff, Mike Chapman, who I saw earlier. From the Leesburg Town Council, Councilman Zach Cummings. Let's please thank these elected officials. Woo-hoo! Finally, I'd like to recognize our 2024 Board Chair, Angela Mitchell, CEO of ARMS Consulting, and members of the Loudoun Chamber Board of Directors. These leaders are the reason that your chamber, the Loudoun Chamber, has earned a 5-star accreditation from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. 5 stars means your chamber is certified to be among the top 1% of all chambers nationwide for operational excellence. I am proud to say we are the only 5-star accredited chamber in the D.C. region. May I ask Angela Mitchell and the rest of the board to please stand up to be recognized. Great. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Dory O'Brien, Director of Government Affairs and Community Relations, representing our 2024 Policymaker Signature Sponsor, Inova Loudoun Hospital. Please welcome Dory.
Good morning, everybody. As Tracy said, I'm Dory O'Brien, and I'm proud to be a part of the Inova team. As the signature sponsor, of the Chamber's Policymaker Series, we are honored to support the vital platform for community engagement and dialogue. We recognize that the decisions made by our elected officials profoundly impact our community's health in both obvious and subtle ways. As Loudoun's community nonprofit hospital, we are obviously concerned with and focused on the community's physical and mental health, and value the relationships formed in spaces such as these, strengthening relationships that are crucial to our mission. Inova Health System is the largest private sector employer with more than 24,000 team members in the region, and Loudoun Hospital alone employs more than 2,000 people, making us Loudoun's top private sector employer. We operate 5 care sites throughout our region to serve the varied medical needs in the area. Whether it's our award-winning Inova Shar Cancer Center, our Inova Shar Heart and Vascular Institute, the Inova L.J. Murphy Children's Hospital, or our many CARES clinics that provide a medical home to the and underinsured, we are here to meet the needs of our community. Our commitment to excellence and dedication to quality care is evidenced by the industry awards and accolades we've received. All 5 of our hospitals are CMS 5-star rated and are designated as magnet facilities, the creme de la creme of nursing accolades. And we've received consistent top grades from Leapfrog for hospital safety. I could go on and on about how proud I am to be a part of the amazing Inova team, and many of my team members are sitting right there, but we do have a full program ahead of us. If you have any questions about Inova and the many amazing services we provide, please come and speak with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dory. Next, I'd like to introduce Nicole Carter, Vice President of Customer Engagement, representing our spotlight sponsor, Novec. Please welcome Nicole.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome. Novec is an electric cooperative that provides electric service here in Loudoun County and other counties in the Northern Virginia area, serving about 170,000 customers. We are pleased to be a member of the Loudoun County Chamber of Commerce and also a long-standing business here in the county. We're proud to sponsor, yet again, this election activity and look forward to the discussion later this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Next up, I'd like to invite to the podium Ryan McLaughlin, representing our debate sponsor, the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors. Please welcome Ryan.
Thank you so much. My name is Ryan McLaughlin. I'm the CEO of the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors, and it really is an honor to be here and to be the debate sponsor for the 10th Congressional District debate. At NVAR, advocacy and engagement in public policy and the election process is really critically important to us. Our members serve as the voice of real estate in the greater Northern Virginia region, and at the association, we're dedicated to enhancing our members' success by delivering exceptional value, driving innovation, and impacting the industry. Our over 13,000 members had a collective sales volume of over $16 billion in 2023. And last year, we decided we wanted to really truly understand the real estate industry's economic and business impact. So we partnered up with Dr. Terry Clower and George Mason University Center for Regional Analysis to find out. And the results of our housing impact study were pretty staggering. For all of Northern Virginia in 2023, which includes Loudoun County, the residential real estate industry contributed $38.7 billion in economic activity. It boosted area gross regional product by $22.4 billion, and it increased labor income by $12.8 billion. And it supported over 187,000 jobs in the region. So we advocate on behalf of home buyers, sellers, renters, commercial property owners, and all those that are affected by local, state, and federal policy decisions, which brings us here today. So we're here not just to hear from our candidates, but to engage in vital conversations. It's a unique opportunity for us to listen, to learn, to challenge each other and our leaders on the issues that matter to us most, like housing affordability, different than affordable housing, economic impact growth, transportation, infrastructure, and community development. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today and your commitment to the election process. Good luck to the candidates.
Thank you, Ryan. Now I'm going to hand off to our moderator, President and CEO of the Loudoun Chamber, Tony Howard, to introduce our panel and our candidates. Please welcome Tony.
Okay, thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you as well to all our sponsors and to our audience. Thank you for spending a little bit of your morning with us this morning in this important exercise in democracy. And yes, I'm just stalling until I get time to put my glasses on. All right, so thank you all for joining us here at the National Conference Center for the 10th Congressional District Debate. Thank you as well to those who are joining us online. This debate is being live streamed as we speak. It'll also be available on the Chamber's YouTube channel. That's the Loudoun County Chamber, is what you search for the YouTube channel. I'm going to begin by offering an overview of the rules for today's debate. The rules have been negotiated with and agreed to by both campaigns. Each candidate will have the opportunity to offer a 2-minute opening and a 2-minute closing statement. The candidates will take turns responding to each question. They will have 2 minutes to respond to the question that's directed to them on their turn. The other candidate will then have 2 minutes to respond to the same question. The order in which the candidates will offer their statements and responses to our questions was determined in advance through a coin flip conducted by Loudoun Chamber staff. The Supermonium campaign won that coin toss and elected to offer the second opening and second closing statement and to start the debate by responding second to the initial question. After that, the candidates will alternate turns responding to each question. A Loudoun County Chamber staff member will serve as a timekeeper. A yellow card will be raised to indicate the candidate has 30 seconds to conclude their response. A red card will then be raised when time has expired. Candidates, At that point, we ask that you conclude that sentence, and we can move on to the next response. The order in which the candidates are asked questions will alternate until the time allotted has expired. At that point, we will begin the closing statements. The candidates will not be allowed to direct questions towards each other. As a moderator, it is within my discretion to redirect a candidate on their response or to ask a follow-up question if I feel a candidate has not specifically addressed the question addressed to them. The candidates may only offer spoken responses to the questions. They may not bring or use any charts, pictures, graphs, or other visual displays. They are allowed to bring notes to the stage and allowed to take notes while they're up here too as well. They may not interrupt each other. Failure to abide by these rules will result in a warning by the moderator. Actually, I should add a stern warning from the moderator and a restoration of time at my discretion. As a reminder, all the questions in today's debate are derived from the Loudoun Chamber's legislative agenda as adopted by our board of directors and were not shared with the candidates in advance. Now, a friendly reminder for, well, what looks to be a friendly audience. Please refrain from any loud, sustained, or otherwise disrupting behavior that would interfere with either candidate's opportunity to respond to the questions. I ask you for this courtesy out of respect for the candidates and for your fellow audience members as well as those watching online. Thank you for understanding and cooperation. Okay, now we're done with the rules. It's now my great pleasure to introduce the panel of business leaders who will be posing these questions to our candidates. I'd like to begin with the Chair of the Loudoun Chamber's Board of Directors 2024, Angela Mitchell, the CEO of ARM Consulting. Angela, welcome. Joining her will be Scott Loft, the Senior Vice President in Northern Virginia for Atlantic Union Bank, as well as the incoming 2025 Chair of the Board of Directors of the Loudoun Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Scott. And you've already met her, but let's meet her again. Dory O'Brien, Director of Community and Government Relations at Inova Loudoun Hospital, as well as Vice Chair, and soon to be Chair, of the Chamber's Public Policy Committee. And our timekeeper for today, Mr. Theo Stamatis. He is the Government Relations Manager for the Loudoun Chamber. Welcome, Theo. Now, let's meet our candidates. First, I'd like to invite to the stage State Senator Suhas Subramanian. State Senator Subramanian was elected to the Virginia Senate in 2023, representing the 32nd District. He serves on 4 committees in the Virginia Senate: local government, courts of justice, general laws and technology, and as well as agriculture, conservation, and natural resources. Prior to being elected to the state Senate, he served 2 terms in the Virginia House of Delegates. Senator Subramanian also served as White House Technology Policy Advisor to President Obama. In addition to his experience as public service, Senator Subramanian served as a volunteer EMT and firefighter. The state senator lives in Loudoun County with his wife, Miranda, and their 2 daughters. Please welcome State Senator Suhas Subramanian. Next, I'd like to introduce the 2024 Republican nominee for Virginia's 10th Congressional District, Mr. Mike Clancy. Mr. Clancy began his legal career as an attorney with the Navy's Office of General Counsel. Today, he is a senior business executive and lawyer for a global information technology company and has the privilege of serving on Governor Glenn Youngkin's technology and cybersecurity transition team. Mr. Clancy is a noted commentator on political, legal, and constitutional law issues. He is a Daily Caller contributor and a Newsmax insider. He frequently appears as a legal analyst on political news programs, and his articles regularly appear in the Daily Caller, Newsmax, Fox, The Federalist, and Washington Examiner. Mr. Clancy lives in Sterling with his wife and their 4 sons. Please welcome Mr. Mike Clancy. Thank you. All right, so it is time to get started. As I explained before with the rules, there was a coin toss that took place a few weeks back, and the results of that coin toss is that, Mr. Clancy, you have the opportunity to offer your opening statement, so please.
Thank you, Tony. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Clancy, and as your congressman, I'm going to restore America. The Biden-Harris economy has left so many Virginians struggling to cover the costs of basic daily living, and their day one decision to open our border to massive illegal immigration has been catastrophic and a danger to our community. A carjacking and murder of a grandmother in Sterling, a young girl abducted walking to school in Manassas, a fentanyl crisis in our high schools, and over 300,000 missing children across our country. I've talked to voters all across this district, and like you, they're demanding change. And as your congressman, I'll be that change agent. I'm a husband and a dad. My wife Lynn and I are proud parents of 4 sons. I spent many years coaching baseball and basketball, And I've been at the school board fighting for our children and for parents. I'm a business, and I've volunteered as an election attorney, and I fought back against the toll increases on the Greenway. I'm a business leader, a senior vice president with a global technology company. I serve on the policy committee of the Northern Virginia Chamber and on Governor Youngkin's cybersecurity team, and I'm honored to have the governor's endorsement. I want to go to Congress and to fight for our economy and to energize our economy through business and entrepreneurship. I'll secure the border and aggressively fight the fentanyl crisis. My opponent is a career politician with an extreme, radical, liberal voting record. He would be a rubber stamp for all those failed Biden-Harris policies and for Harris's radical liberal agenda. It's time for change. I'm going to Congress to serve you, to work for you, to fight for your future, and to restore America. I'm Mike Clancy, and I'd be honored to have your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Clancy. Senator Subramanian, your opening statement, please.
Thank you so much for having me this morning. Happy Friday morning. Today is the first day of early voting, so if you haven't voted yet, go out and vote today. I'm Suhas Subramanian. I'm a state senator. I represent Eastern Loudoun County, and I'm proud to be running for the U.S. Congress to continue representing us in Washington. My kids were born in Loudoun County. I was married in Loudoun County, and it's a special place to me. And I'm running for Congress because I want to take on the toughest fights for Loudoun County and the rest of the district and produce real results like I did in the state Senate. I'm looking at 80% of the stuff that I get to my state Senate office is actually federal issues like immigration, like veterans benefits, small businesses, and I see some of the dysfunction that's happening in Washington. They're actually struggling to pass a budget yet again. And that's ruinous for our community here, which has a lot of federal government contractors as well as a lot of federal government workers. And so we have to stand up for our district in Washington. We have to stand up for our economy here. And so I'm going to be a champion for us in Washington. And I think the only way we're going to move our country forward is if we work together, Democrats and Republicans, and unite us rather than seeking to find what divides us. And so my parents immigrated from India in the late 70s, and my mom was a lifelong Democrat. My dad usually votes Republican. So I'm the product of bipartisanship. And I know that when Democrats and Republicans come together, good things happen. But I want to make sure we do some of those things. And the last thing I'll say is, I'm happy to be running for Congress, but this is kind of bittersweet for me. Jennifer Wexton was a great member of Congress. Regardless of whether you even voted for her, you can understand that she did so much for her community, and I want to thank her for her service. And one of the things she told me was the best ideas come from constituents and come from people like you. And so whether you're a Democrat or Republican, I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to take your ideas to Congress and try to execute on them the way I did as a state senator. So thank you. Looking forward to answering your questions.
Great. Thank you, Senator. Okay, our first question is going to be offered by Angela Mitchell, and Mr. Clancy will be the first to respond.
Good morning, Mr. Clancy.
Good morning.
While our national economy is still strong, the cumulative impact of inflation and high interest rates, plus worries about potential recession, have had a negative consequences for many American businesses and families. If elected, how would you work with your congressional colleagues to address these economic issues?
Well, thank you. So clearly, my priority is in restoring America is a priority of the vast majority of constituents in this district. That is the economy. And the economy is broken. Families are struggling in this economy. I talked to a single mother at the Prince William County Fair a few weeks ago. And she told me she has 2 teenage sons. And her challenge, buying groceries for those 2 teenage sons. And if any of you have teenage sons, you know exactly what she's talking about. And that $100 worth of groceries 4 years ago costs $125 today. And people are paying for their groceries with credit cards that have 25% interest. And now 40%, we have $1 trillion in credit card debt, and 40% of Americans are defaulting and delinquent on those credit cards. We need significant change. So this problem of inflation, which is devastating our community, is the product of the Biden-Harris administration. Their $1 trillion spending sprees. The Treasury Secretary of the Obama administration warned that this would happen with these trillion-dollar spending sprees, that we'd have massive inflation, and that's exactly what happened. So the first step in addressing our economy is getting the budget under control, reining in this reckless government spending, and getting an orderly budget process. We need to end the endless cycle of continuing resolutions which disrupt business, especially for government contractors. And we need to address taxes. The 2017 tax cuts are about to expire. We need to address taxes. My opponent is a tax and spend liberal agenda. He's voted time and time again for tax increases in the state legislature. He voted twice for a gas tax. He voted for a bag tax. He also voted against a bill that would have reduced the mandatory, the standard deduction.
Thank you, Mr.
by
Clancy. Your time has
50%.
expired. Senator Subramanian, the same question, please.
Thank you. You know, I've talked to a lot of families in our community who are facing rising costs, and businesses as well. Businesses that are successful, but because of the expenses they have to take on from increasing costs, they're not able to do business anymore. And Loudoun County has become really expensive for a lot of families to live in and a lot of businesses to work in and operate in. Even before it was popular, I started addressing rising costs. It's one of the first things I did as a state senator. When people told me while I was knocking doors out in Loudoun County that the Greenway Toll Road is way too expensive and there's no check on them, I passed the very first bill that the toll road opposed to actually rein in toll costs. And in fact, a couple of weeks ago, the State Corporation Commission ruled that they could not increase tolls by 40%, and they cited my bill as the reason why they did that. And so they did that again on utility bills. Customers were being overcharged, and because of a bill that I passed, over $300 million in refunds were returned to customers and overcharges. And I can keep on going. Housing costs, prescription drug pricing. I've been trying to address all these issues in the state Senate. In Congress, we can do more. We can do much more. Yeah, some of it is because of spending that happened during the COVID-19 pandemic, and by both administrations, the Trump and Biden administration, as well as by supply chain disruptions that happened. There's a lot that contributed to the inflation we have. I'm glad that the Fed cut interest rates recently, but some of these are policy failures too. I think that some bad actors took the opportunity when prices went up to price gouge customers. And so I think there's a lot we can do as state legislators and as federal legislators to address rising costs. And I plan to do that in a bipartisan way. The only way we're going to get things done is by having Democrats and Republicans work together on these issues.
Very good. Thank you, sir. All right, our next question is going to come from Scott Loftus, and Senator Subramanian will be the first to respond.
Senator Subramanian, a functioning metro rail and bus system is vital to Northern Virginia and Virginia's economy and future growth as a whole. The system is currently facing significant financial and operational challenges. What do you believe is the federal government's proper role regarding WMATA and transit at the state and local level in terms of financial and system oversight, governance, and funding?
Sure. You know, I was proud to be at the launch of the Ashburn Metro Station and the expansion of the Silver Line. Many of you were in that room, and many of you worked for many years to bring the Silver Line out to Loudoun County. And so it was a great day. But I think what we need to do is make sure that we increase ridership. And a lot of that's going to come down to trying to spur economic development along the Metro corridor. And so as a state legislator, I've tried to do everything I can working with the locality to increase both economic development projects as well as just economic partnerships at each of the metro stops that we have here. You know, I actually had the pleasure of going to Taiwan with a group of Democrats and Republicans at the state level, and we met with their metro system there. And one of the interesting things was they talked about how they had a lot of challenges when they first started with ridership and with keeping their system funded. And so, but now they're actually wildly profitable. And they're a model for other countries, in fact. And I think we can get there as well if we do that. And so first, we need to make sure we support Metro with funding at the federal level and state level while it's going through its growing pains right now. But long term, I think Metro can be a huge economic benefit for our community. And I think it'll help get federal workers to and from their federal government jobs, which is why the federal government needs to have a big role in making sure it supports Metro.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Mr. Clancy, your response.
So transportation is key to the economy. It's key to our daily life. The problem with Metro is that it was conceived before COVID. And now today, the vast number of workers are working remotely. The federal government is not back to work. They're not going into DC. Most of the folks in this room are probably working remotely or hybrid work environments where they're only traveling maybe 2 days to work. That's one of the challenges Metro has, is really weak ridership. The other problem is to get to those toll stations here in Loudoun, you got to go down the Greenway, which has an expensive toll, and people don't want to pay that toll to get to those Loudoun stations. So we need to reduce that toll. It's great that we were able to collaborate and stop an increase, but we need to do more and reduce the toll. The other problem that Metro has had is people jumping the turnstiles in DC. It's total lawlessness. And Metro just implemented a pilot where they put up these new barriers to block turnstile jumping, and when they did that, the pilot proved they increased revenues by 30%. So we need to end the lawlessness, and we need to do those kinds of things. Second, the Metro has been grossly mismanaged. We need to put in a comprehensive, bring business experts, instead of career politicians, put business experts in charge of Metro to do a full analysis of how to run that Metro system, how to run it more efficiently, more effectively, more cost effectively. That's how we get Metro. And then in terms of funding, we should be looking at a regional funding program, some federal, state, local funding to support the Metro system. And that's how we get and that's how we can best address the issues with Metro.
Very good. Thank you, sir. All right, our next question is going to come from Dory O'Brien, and Mr. Clancy will be the first to respond.
Good morning, Mr. Clancy.
Good morning.
There have been bipartisan calls for comprehensive immigration and border security reforms, including resolving the status of undocumented workers and other residents for decades. What specific immigration reform proposals would you support?
Yeah, I think the key to restoring America is to address immigration. We need to address illegal immigration, and we need to address the problems with legal immigration, the green card system specifically. Quickly on legal immigration, I had dinner with a group of South Asian Indians, and they told me, one of the men at that dinner told me it took 17 years to get a green card. That's a broken system. And they're outraged by what's happening at the southern border and the expenditure of $150 billion of taxpayer dollars on illegal immigration, while they struggle to do legal immigration and struggle to get a green card. So it's a two-step process. We have to address illegal immigration, and we need to enhance and streamline legal immigration for people who are trying to follow the law and come here legally and get a green card. In terms of the border, we need to secure the border. We need to end this welfare for illegal immigrants. We need to end catch and release. We need to end sanctuary cities. We need strong collaboration between local law enforcement and federal law enforcement so that we can address illegal immigrant crime and enforce deportation orders. And that's why I'm endorsed by Sheriff Mike Chapman and the Attorney General, because they trust me to go to Congress and push and drive for the legislation we need to secure our border and to address illegal immigrant crime and to ensure that we have strong collaboration between local and federal law enforcement. Those are the key elements of how we address the border. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clancy. Senator Subramanian, your response, please.
Yeah, I come from an immigrant family, and when my parents came here, they actually were able to get their green card within 2 or 3 years. And now it's taking 10, 15 years for some people to even get an appointment to applying for a green card. And again, it's one of the top issues I actually hear from as a state senator. And I hand him over to Jennifer Wexton, who does a great job with them, and I take the credit. But in the end, we have to address the broken immigration system. We have to do it in a comprehensive way. One of the strongest border security bills in recent memory was passed and supported by Republicans and Democrats in the U.S. Senate. But then House Republicans actually decided they did not want to take it on because Donald Trump told them not to, because they actually wanted to make this an issue in the election this November. So if you're serious about border security, why don't we actually address border security? And so one way to do that is the stuff in that bill, which is why don't we add 1,000 new asylum officers, for instance. Right now our asylum system is completely broken. Sometimes people will come in for asylum, it takes 5 to 7 years to process them. How about adding more detention beds? How about adding more security and more funding for security along the border? And let's not forget that our border is actually Dulles Airport here. So why don't we support more funding for border security at the airport when people come in? And another big part of our illegal immigration is actually visa overstays. So we need to fix this in a comprehensive way, and we need to actually support border security instead of talking about supporting border security. And we need to actually support legal immigration instead of just talking about legal immigration. In Congress, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that we work in a bipartisan way to solve these issues. And I'm going to force a vote, if I can, in the U.S. House of Representatives on the bill that the U.S. Senate has already supported.
Very good. Thank you, Senator. Okay, our next question will come from Angela Mitchell, and Senator Subramanian will be the first to respond.
Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
Providing a broad diversity of affordable workforce housing options is a struggle throughout Virginia's 10th Congressional District. What assistance would you pursue at the federal level to address the high cost of housing in Northern Virginia and across our nation?
Yeah, housing is one of the biggest issues we're facing in our economy here in Northern Virginia. I've talked to so many teachers and firefighters and just people in our community who can't afford to live here. In fact, a lot of our teachers actually live out in West Virginia and commute an hour each way because they just can't afford to live in the community where they teach. And that's a huge detriment to our community. And I've talked to a lot of business owners who can't afford to hire people because people don't want to live here because it's too expensive. And so they're looking for jobs in places where it's more affordable to live. And so this is a big issue for our economy. It's a big issue for everyone. I think this is an issue where we need cooperation at the local level, state level, and federal level. As a state senator, I did everything I could to add to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and to support our locality when it came to supporting affordable housing and workforce housing projects. One of the initiatives that the Chamber has actually put forward is an initiative to basically support not just affordable housing, but the actual projects, right? And so it's one thing sometimes we even have the money, we have the land, but then the project doesn't land because we're not using our megaphone as legislators and as leaders to support the actual project. And so I want to continue to see here in Loudoun that we support some of the programs that have put forward. And I also want to see us incentivize builders at the federal level, doing whatever we can. There's a lot of good ideas that have been put forward. And I think we can solve this issue if we come together, both Democrats and Republicans, as well as every level of government to solve this.
All right, very good. Thank you, Senator. Mr. Clancy, your response.
Thank you. Quickly, the immigration bill he just referred to was a very weak, bad bill. It allows for 4,000 illegal immigrants every single day to come across the border. It did not truly secure the border. There is a bill in Congress, H.R. 2, which was introduced in 2023 by Republicans, which would truly secure the border and address asylum and address all the border issues that we've alluded to. But Democrats refuse to move on it because they want massive illegal immigration, as we've seen for 4 years. They've been in office for 4 years, and this is what we've seen in our country. In terms of affordability, I've talked to builders about the affordability issue. So inflation hit the builders. Lumber prices skyrocketed. Building material prices skyrocketed. They were impacted by inflation. They were also impacted by the regulatory scheme and the permitting scheme to get developments approved, which cost them tens of thousands of dollars. Well, Economics 101, that feeds into the prices of the house. They were impacted by interest rates. The interest rates under the Biden-Harris administration have skyrocketed. Not only have they impeded mortgages, but they impact the financing of building projects, which also drive up the cost of the builders. And finally, your Loudoun Board of Supervisors charges a builder $100,000 in proffers for every house that they want to build. All of that adds to the price of the house. So to bring down to make houses affordable, we have to address the economy, as we talked about in the beginning. We need lower taxes. We need to streamline the permitting process. And your local government needs to back off the demands for these exorbitant proffers that drive up the price. So that's got to be a combination of federal and local government effort to address the affordability issue.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right. Our next question is going to come from Scott Loftus, and he will direct that towards Mr. Clancy first.
Mr. Clancy, in 2021, Congress passed a sweeping bipartisan infrastructure bill to invest $1.2 trillion in America's roads, rails, ports, and broadband networks. What do you think Congress got right with the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and how can the bill be improved in the next Congress?
Well, thank you. So first of all, let's clarify that bill. It was $1.2 trillion, but only about 10% actually goes to roads and bridges. The other is for various green subsidy programs. So that's one key improvement, that really we should have legislation that truly focuses on infrastructure. And one issue I'd like to see addressed in infrastructure are the tolls. If someone wants to get to work to DC, and they start with the Greenway, and then they pick up the Dulles Toll Road, and then they get to the Beltway and they take 66 inside the Beltway, they're paying over $30 one way in tolls. $60 round trip, $300 a week. Government workers can't afford that. Middle income, low income workers can't afford that. Contractors can't afford that. We need a comprehensive approach to bringing down these tolls. My opponent's been in office for 5 years. We've only seen a proliferation of toll roads under his watch. We need to strike back and reduce these tolls. And what I also propose is that for commuters, there should be a rebate on those tolls, a 50% rebate. If someone is commuting to work and they have 16 trips in the round trips in the course of a month, they should get a 50% rebate on the tolls. We need to help the worker, because otherwise these roads are just for rich people. They don't work for the middle class. They don't work for low-income people because they're too expensive. So that's a key issue in our infrastructure. We can build all the roads, but if we put these exorbitant tolls on them, they're not good for anybody except for rich people. So let's work for the common man. Let's work for the middle class. Let's work for the low-income workers, and let's address the toll issue once and for all.
Thank you, sir. All right, Senator Subramanian, your response, please.
Thank you. I think one way I judge myself as a legislator is what would have happened if I wasn't there. And if I hadn't been there, there wouldn't have been any toll road bill. And I'm the only person who has ever passed legislation to curb tolls. If it weren't for the bill that I passed, tolls might be $7.20, $8 on the Greenway, maybe even higher. But because of the bill I passed, and you can ask the State Corporation Commission, we were actually able to stop a 40% increase, and that was a decision a couple weeks ago. I've done everything I can. In fact, I even put forward legislation to try to lower tolls and give the State Corporation Commission that authority, and I'm going to continue to fight for lower tolls in Congress because it is a big problem, because I live a mile away from the toll roads, honestly, so that's the way I would be getting to DC if I was in Congress. But I also want to make sure that we bring more federal dollars to Loudoun County and the 10th District generally, because again, this is where a lot of the federal workforce is. And so one of the things people ask me, which committee you want to be on? Well, Jennifer Wexton's currently on Appropriations Committee. That's been hugely beneficial for a community. That's where I want to be as well, because we can actually get more funding to our community for infrastructure and roads and for all of our needs. Route 50 is starting to become really crowded. Route 9, Route 7, all our major roads need federal funding so that we don't have to worry about our property taxes potentially going up in order to pay for some of these roads and infrastructure projects. So I'm going to continue to be a champion for us in Congress, and in order to do that, again, we have to work, Democrats and Republicans together, and we have to pass more infrastructure bills like the IRA, and I plan to do that when I'm in Congress.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Senator. It's now time for our next question. It'll be offered by Dory O'Brien and Senator Subramanian, who will respond first.
Senator, there is considerable agreement amongst industry and regulatory leaders that America's aging power grid is under significant stress and requires considerable investments. What do you believe are the most effective strategies to enhance the resilience of the national electrical power grid?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a big question for us here, right? Because we have so many data centers now and more that are planning to be built that it's actually putting a lot of stress on our power grid. And right now we're having hard conversations about how we're going to power them. And some of the plans are to build power infrastructure to coal country in West Virginia. And so I think we need to really look at this carefully because it's going to affect us at a very local level. One of the things, again, we need to do is, if I'm on the Appropriations Committee, invest locally in our local power grid as well as nationally. I think we need to have comprehensive legislation to upgrade our power grid. The other thing I want to do, we need to do more to promote clean and renewable energy as well. We don't want to be too reliant on foreign energy. One of the issues that we had over the past couple of years is when there's a war, like the Ukraine war that pops up, we're so reliant on foreign oil, or when OPEC decides that they want to increase prices, we're so reliant on OPEC that we don't have our own sustainable energy here in order to address and be self-reliant when it comes to energy. And so long term, I think the way to solve this as well is to promote clean energy and invest in clean energy. And Virginia can be the clean energy capital of the world, and I wanted to make it so when I'm in Congress.
Very good. Thank you, Senator. Mr. Clancy, your response, please.
Energy is key to the economy, it's key to our daily life, it's key to restoring America. The reason we're struggling with energy right now in Virginia is my opponent's Clean Economy Act. That has decimated our energy infrastructure. We are shutting down fossil fuels faster than we can replace them. And guess what the answer is? We're now having to buy energy from coal plants in West Virginia and Pennsylvania. It just solves nothing. It just creates problems. And it's also driving up your prices as a ratepayer. There was an 11% increase in your rates just this past year, and 23% since my opponent pushed through the Clean Economy Act. That is decimating our energy. We need an all-the-above energy policy. We need fossil fuels. We need clean burning natural gas. We need to look at small modular nuclear reactors as a way to power data centers. And I know that companies, data center companies, technology companies are looking at that technology as a way to power their data centers. And yes, we shouldn't have reliance on foreign oil, but who's responsible for that? The Biden-Harris administration. The first thing they did was shut down the Keystone Pipeline, and then they shut down the leases, and they are putting a stranglehold on American energy. We need to unleash American energy. That's how we become energy independent, so we're not dependent on foreign oil, and we're not dependent on natural gas. And that was also a critical national security issue, because what it forced Europe to do was buy energy from Russia and from Iran, and it helped fuel 2 wars. Biden-Harris paid for 2 wars, the war against Ukraine and the Hamas Houthi attacks in the Middle East. We need American energy, and so does Europe, and I would be a steadfast supporter in Congress to unleash American energy and develop an all-American and all-inclusive energy plan. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Clancy. All right. Our next question will be posed by Angela Mitchell, and Mr. Clancy will respond first.
Mr. Clancy, most CEOs and economists agree that developing an educated, skilled, and adaptable workforce is amongst the most important challenging America's economic growth. What existing federal program do you think should be expanded, or what new federal program would you propose and why?
Thanks, Angela. Yes, obviously education, our educational system is critical. It's critical for businesses to move to Loudoun County. It's critical for business to recruit employees to Loudoun County. It's critical to restoring America. And we have an affordability problem in higher education. And the reason for that is they're totally unchecked. They have no economic or business sense in how they run their universities, and that's in large part due to the federal government's loan program. It's basically giving these universities a blank check. I would make 2 changes. The first change, if we could get it through Congress, and I can convince a few Democrats, would be to privatize the loan system. Get the government out of the loan system, because private companies will hold universities accountable for what they're charging kids for tuition, because they don't want to have defaulted student loans. If I can't convince them to do that, my second plan to modify the loan program would be ROI, your business people, return on investment. Those loans should only go to students in colleges where there's going to be a return on investment. Northeastern University has a tremendous program. You can't graduate without doing a 6-month internship, a paid job in your major. And what that does, and what they've proven at Northeastern, that leads to a job. We need to invest, if we're going to invest in colleges and have a student loan program, we need an ROI that puts our kids into jobs. That would be how I'd reform that system. That's critical. But we also have to address K through 12, right? We have to have a good K through 12 system. I talked to a teacher who left Loudoun County after 20 years. When she started, She said, oh, we had a great system, but it started to decline year over year over year. And finally, after 20 years, I said, no more, the system is broken, and it have to leave. I talked to a dad at back to school night. He said, we talked about the school issues, and what he said was, what's going on in the schools just ain't cool. So we need to address local education, K through 12, and we need to address the universities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clancy. Senator Subramanian, your response, please.
Thank you. I'll sound biased because I have a 2- and 4-year-old, but early childhood education in Loudoun County, I'm a big supporter of it, and really across the country as well, because early childhood is one of the best investments you can make in education. And a lot of students, by the time they start in elementary school and beyond, they get behind, and then it's hard for them to catch up. And so we need to invest in early childhood. I also want to make sure we invest in our K through 12 schools and that we support and retain great teachers as well. Again, I was talking about those teachers who have to commute in from West Virginia. If we can have more workforce housings for them to be able to live in Loudoun County, that'd be great for our Loudoun County schools as well. And finally, I think we need to do more on higher education. We need to get a little creative, honestly, because the future jobs, I was a philosophy major in college, and my parents weren't happy when I switched from pre-med to philosophy, but I was able to go to law school as well after that. But a lot of the jobs of the future require very specialized skills that don't require a 4-year college. I've been a big proponent of our community college system, especially Northern Virginia Community College, where you can actually, it's one of the best deals you can have in education. You can go there for a couple of years and then go to George Mason for another 2 years, get a great degree, a great education. We can also have more career and technical education at every level. I actually passed the bill this past year to improve career and technical education and have students start career and technical education clubs in middle school, high school, so we can start them early. The jobs of the future are going to require us to be creative and be innovative, because that's what the employers of today are demanding, and we can have our Loudoun County students ready for that and ready for the economy of the future if we invest in them.
Very good. Thank you, Senator. All right. The next question will be posed by Scott Loftus, and Senator Subramanian will respond first.
Senator Subramanian, adopted in 2017, the Tax Cuts and Job Act was signed into law, and with it, a substantial modernization of the United States approach to taxing business income. However, many Tax and Job Cuts Act reforms will expire at the end of 2025. What is your view on the Tax Cuts and Job Act, and would you support extending the bill's personal and business tax reforms in the next Congress?
That's a good question. I think we need to look line by line at which taxes we want to assess and which ones were good for us and which ones weren't good for us. I know that that bill eliminated the SALT deduction, the state and local tax deduction. That was something that was really hurtful to a lot of businesses and a lot of people here. I know there's some tax cuts that were actually really good for our economy and really good for jobs, so we want to continue those as well. So we've had about 7 years to assess it, and I think if we're in Congress, we need to make sure that we're very strategic about which taxes we cut. There are some taxes that were cut that were not good for our economy, and some taxes that were cut that ended up, the revenues ended up going abroad, right? So we need to make sure that we're really strategic, because when we're talking about our federal deficit, for instance, we're talking about inflation. It's not just about spending, it's also about the impact of tax cuts on our economy as well. So we have to be strategic about the way we cut taxes in this country, and next year we're going to have the opportunity to do that. I hope we can come together. Again, Democrats and Republicans come together in a bipartisan way to make that assessment, and we can get a consensus bill forward to make some of them permanent, to get rid of the ones that weren't effective.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Senator. Mr. Clancy, your response, please.
Yes, tax policy is critical to the economy, and yes, if I'm in Congress, I will vote to extend those tax cuts, because that is good for the economy, it's good for the American worker, it's good for you as an individual. But let's keep in mind what's on the table here. Harris has proposed $5 trillion in tax increases, a capital gains tax, a tax on corporations, an increase of 35% on corporations, a 40% tax on small business. Every one of you will pay more taxes, and my opponent will be a rubber stamp for those $5 trillion worth of taxes. And you know how I know? Because he was a rubber stamp in the General Assembly. He voted for every single tax increase. He voted to raise your gasoline tax, which impacts everyone. He voted for the bag tax, which impacts everyone. He voted against doubling the standard deduction, which would have benefited low-income and middle-income Virginians. He is going to vote for these taxes. He's going to vote to tax every one of you because that's Harris's plan, and he's going to be a rubber stamp from that plan. We need tax relief. If you look at tax cuts historically, and you look back at Clinton, Reagan, Kennedy, in each and every case, those tax cuts ignited the economy and created jobs and ultimately generated more tax revenue. Because the more success business has, the more taxes they pay, and the more the individuals pay because they have good paying jobs. So tax cuts are critical to the economy, critical to getting this country moving again, critical to restoring America. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clancy. Our next question will come from Dory O'Brien, and Mr. Clancy will respond first.
Mr. Clancy, passenger and cargo growth at Dulles Airport has been threatened for years because Congress has increased the number and destinations of flights allowed at Reagan National Airport. What will you do to protect Dulles Airport and the economic benefits it provides to Loudoun County and Northern Virginia?
Yeah, so Dulles Airport's critical to the transportation network across our country, across the world. It's a national, international airport. So yes, that's a priority for me as a congressman for this district, to make sure that we are providing the necessary support for Dulles and the necessary support to ensure that it does well economically and serves our community. But when we're looking at infrastructure, because this question sort of goes back to transportation and infrastructure, you know, we have all this congestion on the roads. And we've already talked about the tolls and the nightmare those tolls have for people who are trying to commute. The other thing we need to do is we need another bridge. We need to build a bridge from 28 from Loudoun into Maryland to give people another route, an alternative route, and to relieve the congestion that's going on as you travel into the city, and to also have a bridge that's toll-free for commuters from Loudoun. That will be a key additional infrastructure program that we should provide, in addition to taking care of the airport, in addition to addressing the tolls. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Senator Subramanian, your response, please.
Yeah, you know, we have to make sure we protect Dulles Airport. The reason there was, in this last FAA reauthorization, there was a big push to get more flights out of Reagan was because the legislators in Congress were selfishly wanting to not have to drive out here to get home. And I think that's really selfish and it's really bad because, frankly, Dulles Airport is uniquely positioned to be able to have some of those long-haul flights, whereas Reagan is not. And so we have to make sure we protect Dulles Airport in every single, it seems like it's going to be an issue in every single FAA reauthorization, unfortunately. And so we have to make sure that we protect Dulles Airport in those processes and also let Dulles Airport thrive. You know, one of the ways that we can lower tolls actually is Dulles Airport thriving, which means they can lower the cost of the Dulles toll road long term as well. And so I think we can do things like that to support Dulles Airport. The other thing that I'd say is, you know, I'm just going to go back to something that was mentioned, being a rubber stamp. I think there's some state legislators at home that are maybe watching this and laughing at the idea that I was a rubber stamp for anyone in the General Assembly. One of the first things I did in the General Assembly was I started a caucus called the Commonwealth Caucus, where we had Democrats and Republicans come together, and I was widely panned for that, but we actually got a lot of things done, including helping pass really important legislation on a number of topics. And when things got hard, even when I passed the gun bill, I got the NRA to back off, and I got Republicans to vote for it because I had this Commonwealth Caucus where we were actually talking together and working together. And so, you know, when I look at the work that I've done over the past 5 years, it's hard for anyone to be objective and look at it and say that I was in any way overly partisan and that I would refuse to work across the aisle and that I would be a rubber stamp for anyone, really. And so the people that I care about most is the people in this room, the people in this community, and I've always put them first over partisan politics, and I'll continue to do that in Congress.
Very good. Thank you, Senator. Just a note to the candidates and to our audience, we're drawing close to our appointed time here this morning, so this will be our final question before we get to the closing statements, and this question will be asked by Angela Mitchell, and Senator Subramanian will respond first.
Senator, you and Mr. Clancy have both achieved distinguished careers in your own right. Tell us one thing you admire about the record or achievement of your opponent.
You know, I actually really admire anyone who steps up to run for office because it's really not easy to come up here, put yourself out there publicly, and even be the target of attacks, which I am, and I know other legislators are on both sides of the aisle. And I know that You know, when I think about anyone that runs for office, I've run in several races before, but afterwards I've tried to forge a good relationship with the person that I ran against, even if they're a Republican, especially if they're a Republican, because even if they lost, they sometimes had really good ideas that I didn't think about. And so I want to, if I'm elected to Congress, I actually want to work with Mr. Clancy and hear out some of his ideas where he disagreed with me, and maybe we can work together, and maybe I'll even involve my own thinking if he has some good ideas I didn't think about. So I want to continue that. I know Mr. Clancy's run for office several times in Arlington, and this is the second time he's running here, and so it's hard to do that. It's hard on a family to do that. My 2-year-old this morning, she hates it when I put on a suit because she knows that means I'm going to work, and so she quivered her lip and said, "Daddy, please don't go to work today." But it's hard every single time I leave my house, and I know it's probably hard on Mr. Clancy as well. So I respect and admire anyone who puts themselves out there and runs for office.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Clancy.
So elections are tough. They're a lot of work. People are committed to working 24/7. And so what I appreciate about my opponent is, like me, he has the support of his family. It's very important. This is a tax on the families, as he just mentioned. You have children, it's stressful on the family, and what's really important is to have that support of your family. You know, I've been blessed. My wife has been side by side with me, not just in this campaign, but from the very first day we met. And that's what we need. And the same thing with the children. You know, my sons have been all in on this campaign. You saw many of them during the primary, out and about at the different polling places. And that's what I think is really important. You know, and that's what I appreciate about my opponent, because I know his family is out there supporting him, and I know there's a lot of sacrifice from families. So I think that's what's admirable in both of our campaigns, is having the support of the family, and the families all into this commitment, because these elections are important. Elections make a difference, and it's so important that we get out there and fight on these issues, work on these issues, try to come to collaboration on these issues, try to work together to solve the problems of this country and to move this country forward. That's what makes this country great. That's what our founders envisioned when they wrote the Constitution, was that we would come together and we wouldn't agree on everything. There'd be factions, but we would negotiate and get to answers. And that's why my business experience really helps, because I've been in that world for 20 years. I've negotiated with many difficult cases. So what my final word is to you: early voting starts today. This elections have consequences. Get out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clancy. All right. It's now time for our closing statements, as explained before by the coin toss. Mr. Clancy will offer his closing statement first, followed by Senator Subramaniam.
Well, thank you all. Thank you, Tony. Thank you to the panel here. You have a stark choice to make here. I'm running for Congress to restore America, to focus on our economy, border security, safe communities, safe schools, education, moving our country forward, revitalizing our economy. For you, the business people, getting the business community energized. In contrast, you have 4 more years of the same. You know, Biden and Harris have been in office for 4 years. Look what they've delivered. My opponent's been in the state Senate for 5, or in the House of Delegates for 4 or 5 years. It's going to be just more of the same. Here's your opportunity to vote for change, to vote for a new direction, to vote to restore America. You know, the Biden-Harris administration is really a threat to our democracy. They nominated their candidate without a vote. This is a party that targeted parents at school board meetings. This is the party that targeted Catholics who go to Latin Mass. This is the party of censorship, as revealed by Facebook. They're attacking your free speech. They're attacking your religious liberty. All that is on the ballot. So I say to you today, vote to restore America. Vote for your liberty. Vote for your free speech rights. Vote for your religious freedom. Vote for the Constitution. The Biden-Harris administration, there have been 20 cases so far across the country, judges from all across the country, that have issued injunctions against Biden and Harris for executive orders and excessive regulations that violate our Constitution. They even tried to rewrite Title IX all on their own. Congress has the exclusive authority to legislate, and that's what I'm going to Congress for, to legislate. And let me just say, Frank Wolf was the most honored and revered member of Congress to ever come from the 10th District, and I am honored to have his endorsement. So I say to you today, vote for Mike Clancy, and let's get out there and let's go win and let's get this country moving again.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Senator Subramanian, your closing statement, please.
Thank you. I'm going to take a quick minute to talk about a few things that we didn't mention. One I think is critically important is reproductive rights. I want to make sure that we protect reproductive freedom across this country, and we can't go state by state. It shouldn't matter your zip code, whether or not you have bodily autonomy, and so we have to protect that. It's personal to me and my two girls who are 2 and 4. And the second thing is, I think we didn't talk much about the environment, but I think as we think about the next 20 to 40 years, as we think about the country that we're going to leave behind for my girls, I want to make sure that we protect our environment, we address climate change in a meaningful way, and we include that when we're talking about the future of our economy, because Virginia can be part of the solution. But 40 years ago, my parents immigrated here. It was a scary thing. My mom was talking about it the other day. It was scary to come here and try to make a life and raise a family here, but she did it. And the U.S., America turned out to be a land of opportunity for them, and we were able to do amazing things. And so we have, in the past 40 years, we've done so many great things, and we've come so far in this country, but there's a lot more to do. There's a lot more to do, and I plan to do. And the only way we're going to move this country forward, as I mentioned before, is we work together, Democrats and Republicans, and find what unites us and find common ground, rather than talking about how bad this country is and the cynical, negative view of this country and the way we want to move forward. And so I'm someone who's always united people. Like I mentioned, I did it in the General Assembly, starting the Commonwealth Caucus. I was widely panned, even in my Democratic primaries. People attacked me for working with Republicans. But I will continue to work with Republicans. I'll continue to work with Democrats to move this country forward, because my girls are worth it, our kids are worth it, our future is worth it. I plan on being in Loudoun County here for another 40 years, and I plan on making sure that we have a great community to live in, a safe community to live in, and one with an economy that can thrive, so that small businesses here can succeed. So thank you so much for having me, and go out and vote early too. Today's the first day of early voting. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Senator. All right. While you're putting your hands together, how about one more round of applause for our candidates and their participation in today's debate? I don't know about you, but I could stay here all morning doing this, but unfortunately I only rented this room for a certain period of time, and so we're going to have to get kicked out sooner or later. I want to say thank you both to Senator Subramanian, Mr. Clancy, their campaigns for making today's debate possible and to bring this conversation to the voters and the residents of Loudoun County and the entire 10th Congressional District. I want to wish you both the best of luck in your campaigns. Also, hey, how about a round of applause for our panelists? They did a fantastic job. And one more thanks to our sponsors, Nova Loudoun Hospital, our spotlight sponsor, Novak debate sponsor. Thank you so much, and the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors. All of our advocate and enterprise sponsors, thank you for making today's debate possible and all of our Policymakers Series events possible. That's it. That concludes the debate. Thank you to our audience for being here.